Welcome back, friends. Another week goes by. I've got to do more of these for our podcasts. Once a week just isn't going to get done. I appreciate your listenership. Rick Wagner getting it right here on the radio at KNZZ KGLN. 2 or 3 other stations and translators out there across western Colorado and eastern Utah. Of course, on the internet and on podcasts. And we have some videos that I'm behind making on politicalviking.com, which you can find on the internet. There you have it, politicalviking.com. By the way, we are up 300% or so in our viewership, as best as I can tell from the really miserable free software I have that just tells me kind of like visits, and that does not a very good job of that. But I refuse to give them any money. So I just kind of want to get a general idea out there of, how things are going, and it shows me what are the top stories people are clicking on at any given time, gives me an idea what you're interested in. Other than that, and anybody can be listening, and we, of course, blasting off into space. Years from now, alien races, who knows where they will be, will be listening to us. But, so, best I can do is say, Goober says hi. Okay? That's all I can say. Anyway, speaking of goobers, we had what purported to be a president this beginning of this week out screeching and waving his little thin arms around down in Georgia. Stacey Abrams wouldn't even show up to speak with him. Remember her, the shadow governor of Georgia? Yeah, she wouldn't show up. And let's see, what day was it? Was it Thursday? Yeah, that's right, Thursday. The animated Mannequin was motorcaded to Capitol in Washington, D.C., to use his wildly powerful persuasive skills to try and get people in the Senate, mainly, because it'd be Manchin and Sinema at this point, to give up whatever principles they may possess and get rid of the filibuster so that he can get a terribly, terribly un-American version of voting through, to federalize voting across the United States, get rid of all those pesky rules about identifying who's voting and how many votes to send out. And hey, I don't know. I mean, at some point we may get to the point where, some people get more votes. And just by dint of, their equity, that sounds like it. Equity demands that certain groups receive more votes, maybe 2 or 3 per person. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But we're living in a country now where they're trying to allocate medical services based on race and things like that. So that kind of remarks aren't so far off from believability, unfortunately. Well, I think we're going to put a stop to that, though. I was especially impressed on Thursday with Sinema, who I freely will admit I thought was a nut job when she got elected out of Arizona. I mean, she'd been in Congress, and she's been like all over the place. If you look at her history, she's been like a part of everything at some movement or another at some point in time. And she's been steel on this thing with the filibuster. It's only 153 years old, I think. So, we haven't had it that long to get used to it or anything. Manchin, who once again, he's doing a good job right now. I always have sort of a gimlet eye on the dude because he's been known to, wave himself up there like he's a tough guy, and then it kind of folds at the end. So far, he hasn't done that. But Sinema, had a press conference apparently while they were wheeling the semi-animated Mannequin over to the Capitol from the freezer or hyperbaric chamber that it's stored in, and just to say that she wasn't going to budge on the filibuster, which was really the timing of that was really a middle finger, as it were, to the president. I think what's happening is, and I think this is really harming the Democrats. It makes me quite happy, really. Not so much the Democrats. There's some good, decent Democrats out there. A few. 6, I think, last I counted. But that's only nationally. There could be some living in other countries. But is that Biden has allowed the far left, and I don't even think they're Democrats. They're barely progressives. They're just flat revolutionaries. I heard that actually from listening to, of course, my mentor. He doesn't know it. I'm being mentored from a distance by Victor Davis Hanson, who was on, I think last week was on, I want to say Tucker, that said, look, they're just flat revolutionaries, which I thought was such a great observation. And it's so easy, but you just don't kind of get onto it. because he corrected himself. He said, he started to say progressives or something. He says, they're just flat revolutionaries. That's why we can't make any sense out of what they want, because what they want isn't connected to our form of government. They don't want our form of government. They don't want to change our form of government. They want to change our government. That's the difference. That's the difference between someone who is a progressive or a regressive or whatever you want to call them, who wants to essentially make some tweaks, large or small, with just a revolutionary who wants to just have everything brought tumbling down and then reassembled in some sort of Lego world in their mind about what things should look like. And that's what we have now on the far left. And if you want to call it the left, it's just plain despotism and, if not feudalism, I mean, it's sadly primitive in what it wants. Just bossing people around, and we'll be tied to the land next. You'll have to be a tanner and your neighbor based, I suppose I could be a wheelwright or something like that. I mean, that's where we're headed, is sort of backward really fast into despotic feudalism if you listen to what they really want. That's the only way you get equity. Equity is a bloody result in that you don't get equity, the ends where they're all equal without stepping on people pretty hard. Always has been that way. I suppose from what I see of some of these people who are pushing it, most of them don't have any sense of history and don't know that. Some of them do know that and don't care. I think what they've done in modern and real terms recently with Sinema and Manchin is that I think they are unable to control, by they, I mean like the White House, some of the people in the White House. Let me tell you, there's some people in the White House, if you listen to what comes out of there sometimes, that are real nut jobs. And considering some of the people they are nominating, like to, FCC positions and, Office of Management and Budget and, the comptroller of the currency. Remember that little gem there, that actual communist, that they've been nominating. It gives you some idea of what's going on there, but I don't think anybody's able to really control a good 20% of the people that are lurking in this party that calls itself Democrats, that are wildly unhappy and threatening and just out of control. And they've been attacking Sinema and Manchin, I think, in ways that we don't even know about privately. And I think it has hardened the resolve of Manchin and Sinema. Many people respond to fear. Some people don't respond well to it, especially when you're like Manchin. And the more that they attack you from the left, probably the better it does you in your state. Sinema's not up for another 2 years in hers in Arizona. And frankly, it's going to, help her in the long run if she can get by a primary. And within 2 years, after 2022, things are going to be so different unless they actually do get to change the voting, then who knows what's going to happen. I think that's what she's looking at. Mark Kelly. Remember old Mark Kelly? Does that name ring a bell? Yeah, he's the other senator from Arizona. They've been turning rocks over, prying sewer, manhole covers off, looking for him, and they found him. And they've been forcing him to try and take a position on some things. And he's, I don't know. He's a former astronaut, such as they are these days. The astronauts these days, don't let me take too much from them, but, they're not John Glenn, okay? Not Neil Armstrong. But he, his wife is, let's see if I remember, I think it's Gabby Giffords, is it? Her name? She's, was tragically shot by some insane person. And so they're big anti-gun people, and I have a hard time fighting them on that because in terms of their they have a personal opinion. They've been damaged, and I understand that, and it's terrible. But he's also got some other kind of slightly weird ideas. But other than that, he doesn't really seem to have any ideas. He was well known from this gun control stuff. He was well known from his wife and the tragic situation. And so he was able to win against, sadly, I think McSally, who ran against Sinema and lost, and then got appointed, and then ran against Mark Kelly and lost. Just a nice lady, great resume, and just didn't seem like she's a good campaigner. And he ran against her and won. He's being pushed out into the limelight. They don't like it. We'll talk about that in a minute. Limelight isn't good for a lot of these people.